saying, um, basic facts, right, about water is, like that we, as we see it on the earth, it's the fact that, you know, um, the whole distribution of water on the earth, right? You can you can separate it, based on different criteria. For instance, if you want to talk about salt water and fresh water, then you will see that we have more salt water on the earth than fresh water, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, um, that in itself, if we just consider that fact, it even presents a bit of a challenge, right? Let
Yeah.
me explain what I mean by that. So, if you have more salt water than fresh water, right? And I think humans, I mean, if I gave you the option of what kind of water to drink, right? You would choose fresh water, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now, that's one challenge. So we seem to have more fresh water, more salt water than fresh water, which now leaves us with the need for us to find a way to always have to separate salt from water so that we can get pure water. That's one challenge. That's one challenge that has commercial what do you call it impact or not on human activity. That's one. The second challenge that I see here is the fact that um if you wanted to put out a fire, okay, all those forest fires that you hear of, wildfires that you hear of in, heavy forest areas like in the US and stuff like that. Did you notice that they don't really use salt water to put out fire? They 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 have to go look for fresh water. And guess what? The water that's in abundance close to those forest areas is salt water. So if they have to put out the fire, it means that they have to go for an extra distance, right, to get fresh water, just to be able to put out some of those forest fires. And the reason is this: salt water has a tendency to corrode, like to like cause a chemical reaction with metals and stuff like that, compared to fresh water. So you don't want to um, use salt water because by the time you be able to put out the fire, then it means that whatever it is that you saved from the fire will now be damaged by the salt in the salt water. Do you understand what I just explained back then?
I'm not sure.
Yes. Okay, let me explain it again. Okay. All right. So first off, we have agreed that we have more salt water than fresh water, right?
Yeah.
Now maybe I should come from this angle. Right. Salt water has a higher tendency to react with um, substances like metals and other things than fresh water. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Let's hold that. Let's have that fact at the back of our mind. Now, if if in the event of a forest fire, right, where fires, you know, uh, burn large scale forests and stuff like that, salt they have to go look for fresh water, right, to be able to put out those fires. Okay. Now
Mm-hmm.
remember that we don't have lots of fresh water. We have lots of salt water, right? So those firefighters, firefighting jets or helicopters have to go for a distance to lift fresh water and use that to quench the fire. Okay. Now,
Mm-hmm.
what I like I said, if you 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 do a small research about those areas where those forest fires actually affect, you would find that predominantly very close to them, you would see that there's salt water there, bodies of water, which means that and it would only make logical sense not to have to too fast water. They would just stop the water from those um places that are close to where the fire is and use it to put out the fire, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mace, do you do that?
You
Did
like
you, did you get what I just said?
yeah. No.
Okay.
Hello?
So one more thing about
Mommy, he's lagging.
hey Mace, can you hear me now?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Let me share my screen. Okay. Can you see my screen now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, before I got thrown out by the internet, I was saying that salt water also is not good for the soil. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
salt water actually affects the production capacity of the soil. That means soil that would have produced or been useful for farming and other agricultural purposes becomes um, too concentrated with salt and it's not useful for growing plants, or for agricultural purposes after a lot of salt water has been dumped on it. So that's the reason why it's very necessary that those people who are putting out those fires, for them not to destroy the environment, they have to go out of their way to do what? Look for fresh water. Can you see the challenge that, you know, having more salt water on the earth poses to mankind?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that was what I wanted to get you to. So there's that's a whole commercial impact of having more salt water than fresh water. Yet we need the fresh water more than the salt water. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some animals that sea animals that prefer saltwater environment. That's fine, but that's just for them. But for kind or human beings, we seem to have more need for fresh water than salt water. Okay, so let's go on to the others. Of course, you can see a bit of criteria below them. You have another grade in there that says 79% of the Earth's water is ice water. That's what you will find at the North Pole, you know, I think the North Pole, yes, Antarctica. And then 20% of water is found, underground, while 1% um, is surface water, which you will see on the surface of the earth. So that's just basic facts if the need arises. But I just felt I should talk about the saltwater deep. Okay. Do you have any questions so far?
No.
No. Okay. Something I just remembered something. One more thing about saltwater, right? Um, I don't know if you've seen a video. I can't. Anyway, I'm not too sure where I saw that video now, but it was a video where they had some cars that were being shipped over the sea, right? So, usually they want to ship cars. They usually put them inside containers, right? And stack them up somehow. So when they get to their destination, they now offload them. But this this vessel was a boat, right? It didn't have those cars inside containers. It just had them, parked like in the open air. Okay. And
Mhm.
somehow there was bad weather, right? And the sea was, was coming, bit was kind of rising up and hitting, the cars inside the ship. Now, that's one thing we don't want to happen because saltwater is also a good conductor of electricity. And it wasn't long after that started happening. All the cars caught fire. I mean, all of them. Not one of them got to their destination. Not one. All of them gone beyond repairs. All of them. And that was just because there was a the salt water got into the food, and of course there was a reaction and short circuiting and all that. So all the cars caught fire, all of them. That was because of the fires that were started by sparks and all that. So that's another issue with salt water. It's not even good for um vehicles. No. Okay, so moving on. Um, let's discuss the next one, potable water. Okay, so what is the idea behind water quality? The measure of the amount of substances inside in a water sample, description of how pure water based on the quality of the water, the high quality of the water is safe for humans. Say hello. Listen, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So I stopped at where we talked about potable water. All right. So let's look at what you would regard as substances in water. Okay, so somehow we've we've somehow talked about the most common substance other than water found in water sample is salt. And over 97% of water on Earth is uh, salt water. Okay. All right. So here are some things we can test water for, right? Taste and odor, the turbidity, toxic substances, um, the pH. Okay, so that pH refers to whether it's acidic or it's basic in nature, and all this will still determine if it's safe to drink. Of course, the pH of pure water would be 7. Okay, dissolved oxygen, solids, and dissolved solids. Okay, and of course, solids being different from dissolved solids would imply that um, there are some solids that could be found in water that don't dissolve, so you could still feel them just like sand in water. Whereas dissolved solids, stuff like salt and the rest that you don't see, but they are, somehow they dissolve in it. All right. So, um, is there any of these concepts that
Pardon.
there any of these concepts that's familiar to you in terms
That
of
can that can
test,
really what?
yes, that you know about?
That and I know about solids
Okay,
and
okay.
I think that's all I've learned.
When you say solids, are you talking about the dissolved solids or just solids?
Solids, just solids.
Okay, so which ones in particular?
Pardon?
Which of the solids in particular do you have an idea about when it comes to water?
Um, ice.
Hmm, ice.
Ice is a solid.
Okay.
Huh?
But if you understand the fact that it's water in solid form, right? Okay. I was thinking more like stuff that's solid, but not water in solid form. That's how when I saw the concept, the word there, solid. That's what uh, came to my mind, right?
Mm,
Because now, for instance, think about it. We are talking about sex, right? I mean, if we wanted to say, okay, let's pretend we had a bottle of water or a cup of water, and there was something that was inside, and we're not sure exactly what's inside, but we want to be able to test that solid and know what solid is inside, and so that we know if it's safe to drink or how we can separate that solid from the water and use it for other things. That's where I feel this topic about testing water is going to. You know. We know that water that's potable doesn't have taste, right?
mm,
It shouldn't have a smell either. So that's the other part. It shouldn't have a smell. Um, toxic substances, talks about sources of pollution, stuff like that. So those things should not um, be uh, in water that's potable. Okay, is there any other solid that comes to your mind?
No.
No. Okay. The concept of pH. Do you have an idea of what it's about?
Does pH have to do something with of purity?
The pH of water, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so when I said pH, right, what I said was that it has to do with the acidity or, the basicity of water. So
Oh yeah, yeah.
remember that time we talked about acid rain and how acid rain um forms and all that. So that pH of pure water should be 7. The total pH range is 14. So 7 is right there in the middle. Anything lower than 7 is acidic. Anything higher than 7, between 7 and 14, is basic. So we also use, um, I think it's litmus paper, right? Litmus paper to test for the pH of water, and that helps us to establish what um, whether it's acidic or basic in nature. Of course, if it's acidic or basic, we can't drink it because it will not be safe for the body in that sense. Okay, all right. So let's uh, consider some other concepts with regards to water. Right? Okay, can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so let's consider the concept of water movement, right? Water movement and waves caused by moving air molecules, which we know as wind, and these waves formed from convection currents in the water. Now, if you consider what convection really is, right, it
Mm-hmm.
just comes, it happens as a result of difference in temperature. Okay, so some parts of the water, you know, because water is not really a good conductor of heat, right? Before heat will get to, the whole of the water. Imagine a whole body of water, right? Before heat will circulate, I'm sure you can even tell that when you're boiling water, you'll notice that it takes a while for the whole water to get hot, right? And that means that as at some point, some part of the water will be cold and some parts will be hot. That will make what is called convection to happen, and that can lead to movement, water movement. So it's not just um, the wind that causes those convection currents. Differences in temperature of water at different times can also lead to waves being formed. So that's what convection is. Okay. If we have to talk about it in terms of heat transfer, maybe we'll revisit that topic. But it comes under um, conduction, radiation, and convection as ways that heat can be transferred from one part of an object to another. Okay, so um, Okay, so there are some concepts here. I may not, let me see, of course, I'll just touch on them. Some of them might be too complex for us to, you know, delve into. What causes tides um, uh, in, in water bodies, right? So
Mhm.
we remember that there are two bodies. We have and they are really close, that are close. Now we're considering the Earth and the Moon, right? Um, and that's because um, they are really close. I think they're closer to each other than the Earth to the Sun. But yes, it still happens. That's why we can talk about gravitational pull of the Moon. And then there's also the gravity of the Sun and the rotation of the earth. All these things influence um, tides and water movement. Um, you know, in some, in some cases where you have um, 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 what do you call those tsunamis as a result of water, huge water bodies moving, all as a result of these influences from much of the control over. Um, okay, so let's talk about some concepts that we can, at least we can relate more to. First off, we have erosion, right? Of wave. We know. Do you have an idea of the concept of erosion?
Erosion
Do
is
you?
when what's it called? Is it when like the tides pull in and then it starts like when the tides pull in, it also takes a bit of like land with it when it pulls back out.
Oh, yes, 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 yes. That's the concept. Yes, that's the concept, and that happens mostly at most beaches, right? And we now have to look for ways to control it. Some so let's see if can happen. Now you can see some of these pictures, right? Um,
Mhm.
okay. So the first one is weathering stroke erosion. So weathering is a natural activity, right? Um, while what you have there as a result of um, mining, okay, human activity can also, cause erosion. Uh, human activity, mining and all and whatnot. Um, activities like fishing, right? And all that can also lead to erosion. Those are the those are basic concepts that can um, either influence erosion that was already happening on its own, right? Or it can act and trigger it. So that we need to look at it from two points of view, right? Erosion can be triggered by human activities or aided by human activities. So let's have that concept at the back of our mind. Okay, so I'm not going to I'm going to skip some of these because some of them are a bit um complex, so we may not need to consider it. Okay. Let me see. I just want to make sure that it's concepts that I believe that you guys will cover by the time you come to talk about water. Okay. Okay. I think we can look at this bit. Water effect on climate. Okay. Water effect on climate. Okay. You can still hear me, right?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So let's consider this concept of water effect on climate. You see the fact that um, places that are closer to uh, water bodies have um, sometimes cooler, uh, even if they are hot during the day, like at night, they will be really cool. And that's because of the air above the water coming into land at night. Okay, so that makes um, living in places those closer to the water, those who live close to the beach, would be able to say that yes, there are times that the weather, they experience a lot of cool winds coming in from the sea, and that's because
Mhm.
of the water the air that's above the water that's cool, much cooler. Okay. Do you have any questions so far?
No.
No. Okay. All right. So that's an advantage of of water on the climate. And remember, the climate is the weather condition over a longer period, right? The weather condition over a longer period, and that is greatly influenced by the presence of water bodies. Uh, um, okay, caused by the water. So let's look at human activities on effect of human activities on water quality, right?
Hmm.
Uh-huh. So that's the bit where we talk about toxic substances, right? Uh, one major problem of living in the city has been how people handle waste, right? How people handle waste. Now, if they have to destroy waste, right, it has a commercial impact. And what I mean is that it would need a lot of funds to be able to deal with waste. Do you understand what I'm saying, right?
Hmm.
So the should I say the lowest in terms of cost, right? The easiest thing for most people to do is to take waste and dump in water. I'm sure you see that happening many times, right? Have you? Hello, Mason, are you there?
Yeah.
Yes. Did you hear what I said?
Pardon.
Did you hear what I said
No.
about pollution?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. You said that what's it
Yes.
called?
Have you? Yes,
You're lagging. What did you just say?
said the easiest thing for most people to do in terms of getting rid of waste is to dump it in water. It's not right, but that's the way most people, some large areas of large cities handle their waste. I was asking, have you seen where that occurs in some real life scenarios?
Oh, where that has occurred, like in countries.
Yeah.
I think some countries like Philippines
Mhm.
um have experienced something like this because I know like landfills in Philippines aren't like that good yet because they don't know how to recycle because I'm not sure if I don't think their recycling system is that good yet. So they choose to dump it out in the ocean.
Okay. And now you just even said something else now about the landfill, right? Now, even um normal, like I'm just thinking of places like places like here in Nigeria, right?
Mm.
People just dump their waste, and then after maybe like there's a heavy rainfall, right? When that when the rain falls and there's a flood, guess what happens?
Um, guess what happened when they
Can
dump
you
in?
imagine what would happen in that scenario? Let's just imagine there's a heap of waste somewhere, and then there's a flood.
So what would happen is
Yes.
like the
So they,
water.
they they have some places where they dump it, and then there's a flood after a heavy.
Mhm. When there's like say for example if there was to be a flood,
Yes, go ahead.
yeah, all that rubbish will come back on and like will come back on and like it'll just make the situation even more worse. The,
The,
Because it can also like when they dump their trash, it can also cause like in what's it called infections. Because say if somebody was to say if there was a flood to happen, like if people were to leave their houses, there could be like infections in the
yeah,
water due to the poor quality of maintaining
yeah,
the waters.
yeah, yeah. And now I want you to also picture this, right? When there's a flood, those the water gets into sewage systems and stuff like
Hmm.
that.
Yeah,
So all this
it could
now
also
gets
block it.
mhm, exactly, and all this now gets at the end of the day now gets stretched into water bodies like the sea or the ocean. And of course, we know that those things are not good for fish, you know, animals that live in the water, and that's is really an issue. Um, so there are two things that we can look at here, right? The first
Mm-hmm.
is what we discussed about. That's pollution, how humans affect water quality, pollution, and that's a negative effect. But there's a positive effect which we are having these days. Thanks to technology, right? Humans are now trying to save um, fish in the water and all those other animals that live in the water by doing what? Filtering water. They've created some very intelligent machines that can, on their own, maybe with some few human interaction or guidance, filter the water and get rid of those toxic substances that have found their way into the water. Because whether we like it or not, most of the fish that uh, that die off each year as a result of pollution that came from human activity, you know, from industries and all that. Okay. So is there any other concept you want to uh, talk about when it comes to pollution?
Uh, no, not really.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. So I think this is one concept that you should have a good idea about the water cycle. Do you have an idea of what the water cycle is?
Yeah, the water cycle is it rains, and the water hits the ground, and then
Okay.
um, what's it? It evaporates, back into the sky, and then that's just a quick version of the cycle. It rains, the sun comes out, it evaporates, and then the cycle repeats again.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay, that's a quick version. Um. So what you call rain, right? I think there's a more, what would I call it?
Is it precipitation?
Yes, precipitation. That's what it's referred to as in the water cycle diagram. So yes, precipitation. Now, you said you talked about evaporation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that happens as a result of, of course, we know the sun. Um, the heat from the sun, heat energy from the sun enables that to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then where does that third term come in condensation? What point of condensation? Can you can you put that into the picture?
Pardon?
At what point does condensation happen? What point
Um,
does it happen?
what time does it happen? Uh, I'm not sure. Morning?
Okay. So you said the evaporation, right?
Mm-hmm.
What 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 do you how does evaporation happen?
Pardon?
How does evaporation happen? How does it happen?
How does it help?
How does it happen? How does the concept of evaporation? How does it happen?
Evaporation happens when it rains, and then all the what's it called? All the rain on land gets evaporated back up so that the cycle could repeat again.
Okay. So what's the main requirement for evaporation to happen? What do we need to be available for that to happen?
I'm not sure.
Yes, the sun has a crucial role to play in evaporation.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Exactly. So what really happens is that the water, right? Water is in liquid form. After, like you said, the rain falls and water from the surface, of the earth, right? The heat energy from the sun makes the water molecules excited, and somehow they are able to escape from from the liquid water. The water molecules now escape and become vapor. And remember, heat energy is what made them excited, and now they've escaped from the water body. Now they go up, and there's this saying that people count, and it's actually true. The higher you go, the cooler it becomes. Have you heard that before?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so as the water goes up all the way up, what happens? it gets to that place that's kind of cooler, and that's where condensation happens. Okay, and then you now have cloud formation, right? Right.
Yes.
Okay. So now we now have the cloud forming. When that keeps happening and happening and happening, what happens? Clouds get heavier and thicker, and then we now have another, you know, the clouds are now ready for rainfall, and with its precipitation, and that's how the whole cycle starts all over again. Okay, so I guess you have a good concept of the water cycle now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, so um, okay, alright. So let's see. Okay, so let's talk about these um, basics more on this. Uh, we store water. Okay, how do we conserve water, right? Conserving water means avoiding waste, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so so we're just talking about how to conserve water because we know that not as if okay, okay, good. All right. I guess there was a bit of a lag, but yeah, but
Mm-hmm.
I can. So, conserve water. You talked about it, so water can actually be recycled too. Uh,
Mommy, he's lagging. Mommy, he's lagging. Hello?
yeah, can you hear?
Yeah.
All right. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can see the screen.
Okay, good. All right. So we're talking about ways to conserve water. Um, I want to I want to ask, do you feel the world is running out of water? Do you feel so? Because if we don't really see the need for us to conserve water, it may not really be a priority. What do you think?
I think it is. Actually, wait, wait, wait. No, I don't actually think that's the case. I think the reason is because, like, now to
Hello.
pay. Hello? Huh? Hello?
Okay, so why?
So I don't think that
Yeah,
that's
go
the
ahead. Go
problem.
ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I
I'm
think
hearing you.
the
I can hear you.
reason I think the reason why water needs to be saved now is because not because we're running out, but because it's getting more expensive and more expensive to pay for over time. And the prices for water bill increase the more water you use. So I think that's why people actually preserve their water
Okay, okay. You made a good point there. You made a good point there. Okay, all right. So, like, so it's not like we're running out of water like at the planet, right?
It's just getting more
Not
expensive due to inflation.
true, true, true. But do you also agree that there are some areas where it's harder? Maybe I would try to use that word, like you said, expensive. And it's more difficult to get potable water. Like, imagine those villages where you have to dig a borehole, you know, for you to be able to get potable water because it has to, it's way, potable water is like way underground. And you have to dig and dig and dig for you to be able to get water and then pump it out so that people can actually use it. Do you also agree that that could also be a challenge for us? Why we also need to conserve water?
Uh, yeah.
Okay, but then just think about it. Think about it. It's something I just think we should also talk about. Since we talked about expensive in terms of um paying for water over time. That is
Mhm.
living in it and all that. Yes. But on the flip side, those who are in rural areas have a huge should I call it water shortage, more like because they have
Mhm.
to for them to get potable water they can drink. It takes a huge effort. And sometimes NGOs have to come into the picture to
Mhm.
help them, and private individuals, philanthropists have to help them dig water to get water out of the ground. Okay, okay. So there are some concepts which we have more like basic facts. If
Hello, you're
water
lagging.
quality is good, living
Uh,
things keep living.
Hello, you're
Okay,
lagging.
so the fish in the sea would,
No,
would
before he
be
was.
able to live, and that means that people human beings who feed on fish will also live, isn't it? But
Mhm.
if water quality is bad, then living things. Can you hear me now?
It is lagging. Yes.
How about now?
Okay, wait for it. Stay there. Wait for it.
Okay, okay, but is it better now?
Yeah.
Is it better now?
Yeah.
Hello, Mason, is it better now?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes. Hello.
Okay,
Hello.
so what did you hear? What did you hear me last? What did you hear? What did
I
you hear me
didn't.
say last?
I didn't hear anything.
Okay. Hello, I can hear you. Hello? Okay, you said you didn't hear anything.
Mhm.
Okay, all right. I think it's back now. Okay. So I said, look, did you see this concept? If water quality is good, living things keep living. And if water quality is bad, living things die off, right? It's basic, right?
Yeah.
Yes. All right. So I was just going to say that because humans also feed on fish, right? If if fish keep on dying off, then we would also suffer the commercial impact of fewer fish to eat. In terms of um, food. Okay. All right. So I know that I think we have somehow talked about ice caps and all those um, things. How what do you call those huge icebergs, right?
Mm.
In places like the Antarctica, how they could affect global
Mommy, are you hearing? Listen.
and how things happen.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Yeah.
Hello?
Okay. So,
Yeah.
do you have any
I
questions
didn't I didn't
for?
I didn't uh he even like that.
Can you hear me now? I think
Yeah,
it's better now, right? Okay.
yeah.
I'll say. I said, do you have any questions or any concepts that came across your mind while I was explaining?
Um nah.
Okay. All right. But if something else came across your mind, just feel free to share it with me via WhatsApp. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So please remember to attend the questions I sent on
Okay.
WhatsApp. The
Yeah.
math questions over the weekend. Okay. So I guess we'll meet again on Monday, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We'll continue from where we stopped for the math.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So enjoy the rest of your evening.
Mm. Okay. Thank you, Uncle.
Welcome. Have a good night.
You too.